Abyss is here and it is Valorant's most lore-heavy map to date. Between a potential agent teaser, experiments on radianite, and even 3 new voicemails all regarding the new map, there's a lot to go over, but I'll be covering all of it in this video. First of all, where and what is Abyss? The where is easy, as there are coordinates in the cinematic, as well as this post from one of the Valorant Twitter accounts, and these direct us to the Jon Mayen Island. You can see it there as those little red dots way off in the Norwegian Sea. The start of the cinematic also lines up with this photo of the Beerenberg volcano, which is part of the island. Now in our world it has an official population of 0, and is only ever inhabited for military and scientific purposes, making it an ideal location for a remote base meant to be kept hidden from the world in Valorant. Our attention is of course focused on the underground though, where we come across a great cavern, and while the key focus is definitely the base itself, you can see in the surrounding area the effects of radianite. Those rock formations are very similar to what we see in the environment on Haven, and then this water can also be found acting pretty strangely. Clove has a voice line that plays at match start on Abyss that really sets the scene for this map.
Your party delves into the maw of the earth, jagged teeth of rock tower above you. A secret was stored here, but no secret is kept forever.
The inhabitants call this place the Elder Grotto, but who are the inhabitants? The Scions of Hourglass have only popped up recently in terms of Valorant cinematics and in-game lore, however their roots lay far deeper than that. They're an organization that exists in both the Alpha and Omega versions of Earth, and their existence revolves around preventing the discovery of radianite from reaching the public, even going as far as killing scientists. This is where Omen comes in. You see, Omen used to work for Hourglass and he was one of their operatives. A while ago he was tasked with killing Viper, since back then she used to work for Kingdom as a scientist. He reflects on his past with Hourglass in this voice line that occurs sometimes if you're playing Omen on Abyss.
Millennia of radiant history stolen from the world and crammed into this cave. How did I not see the wrong in this?
More on that radiant history later, let's talk about another former Hourglass operative, ISO. He was working for them as recently as when the incident on Sunset took place, after which Omen was made his primary target. It's likely that Hourglass were trying to tie off the loose end he had become after joining the Valorant protocol. ISO did have the opportunity to complete his mission and kill Omen, but instead opted to join forces with him as they both needed answers from Hourglass. This is why in the Reckoning cinematic, we see Omen, ISO, Cypher, and Sova working their way up through various Hourglass bases across the globe. However, things don't go quite to plan, and after being tortured by this higher up at an Hourglass base and learning more of his past, Omen ends up going AWOL in search for more answers, which is how he ends up meeting Clove. Together, or inadvertently, they both come across this journal with the Hourglass logo on it. Seeing as it apparently belongs to the organization, you can imagine they weren't too happy to let Omen and Clove get away with it, and it seems like Clove may have even been captured, albeit briefly, by the Scions. We hear more about that in this voicemail.
Hey, Brimstone! I've been helping Cypher with the journal, aye. The one Hourglass tried to steal. There were some bits in there he couldn't figure out. Something about a secret cavern or some such. And that got me thinking about some things those Hourglass numpties let slip when they hauled me aboard their wee little boat. You'd be amazed at what some people say around a dead body. Yapping on and on about bringing the journal back to its rightful place in the Elder Grotto. You see where I'm going with this? The journal's talking about an Hourglass base. A special one too. Shy's getting the ship's navigation logs. We'll suss it out. Just you wait.
Another voicemail that revealed Hourglass's true goals was given to us in patch 8.9, featuring Harbour and Astra.
Brimstone, Astra and I are over at the Alpha Lotus site. Or should I say what's left of it. We wanted to come back and see if there was any pertinent information here now that we know a little about this Scions of Hourglass group. Suffice to say, while the Omega site is still bristling with radianite signatures, this place has been scrubbed clean. We've also been... Oh, yeah, one moment.
What's up, boy? Hand me the phone.
Brim, Harbour gave you the deeds, Look, Hourglass kills scientists instead of kidnapping them. And they try to leave no witnesses to that journal, huh? And now this, with the Nexus? This is about erasing information, keeping it from the public. That place the journal describes, it will show us how deep this goes. Of this, I am certain.
That effectively brings us to the point in time where the Abyss trailer takes place, and now you know why Omen, Clove, and ISO are the agents we see making their way through the base. Abyss itself is made up of 3 main areas, which you can hear some of the map design team talking about in this clip from the show match.
So the idea is like the Scions of Hourglass are keeping these artifacts away from the world, and then our agents they broke in, so it's not a secret anymore.
Yeah, so it is kind of like a secret underground base, or
Yeah,
like a
it's like
a
a
Bond villain or something.
Yeah,
you know?
so mid is like a library. It's like where they keep all of those secrets, and then B is more of this like botanical radianite research facility. They're like seeing the effects of radianite on different organic elements, and then A side is how would you phrase it?
A side is what we call radianite lockup, where particular things are kept there and hidden.
Oh. That sounded ominous.
So we've got botanical research, historical archives, and radiant lockup all under the one roof. Towards the B side and botanical area, there are a few things to take note of. Firstly, we can see this section near B lobby, where they are studying the tree from the guy's vengeance skinline. There's more evidence for this later, but it seems like this tree, or another instance of it, dates back a fair way in this world, and was in some cases harvested for use in weapons. Further onto the site, we have these overhead pipes that seem to contain water similar to that vortex we saw outside the base. It's likely that Hourglass are using this water to treat various forms of plant life and observing the outcomes, even extracting them for energy in some cases if this sign is anything to go by. It's not just plants though. If we travel into B-Link, there are these fish tanks and some of them are occupied by creatures that look very similar to Gecko's Thrash. Presumably these are radivores, in this case the result of experimenting on radianite and fish. Radivores are going to be important later on, so make sure you don't forget about them. In B-Link you can find a piece of sheet music. This was also hidden on Pearl, so we know that if you play the music, it is actually an Easter egg for Zed's Spectrum skinline. So that's the research area out of the way. What about the library and archives, where the Scions were so desperate to return that journal to? Based on this email from Astra in the latest patch, we know that there was an abundance of evidence that Radiants have existed for centuries, as well as proof that the Scions have been erasing them from all records. One of the key features in this area of the map is this display on the wall in top mid. In the world of Valorant, what we're seeing featured here are various radianite artifacts, although we obviously know them as the skins we use in game. Just a quick note as well on the translations there, major props to Strawberry79 on Twitter, as that's where I got this guide for the Scions language from. This particular image in the top left seems to show knights wielding the Gaia's Wrath, an example of how Radiant and Radianite history goes back so much further than the protocol ever knew. ISO has a brief voicemail mentioning the artifacts and his time at the organization.
Brimstone, I'm over at the Hourglass base and I can't believe what I'm seeing. I recognize some of these artifacts from jobs I did, but the scale. I had no idea how big Hourglass was on the world stage. Or still is. We should talk when I'm back.
Reyna in particular is hurt by this revelation about Radiant history, and you can hear that in this voicemail that was just added to the range.
Is it true? Our history was filled with Radiants? How long have the Scions committed this crime? No puedo creerlo, malditos! It is unforgivable! They erased us! This place is our legacy. It belongs to Radiants, and they stole it! I will see it returned, and we will destroy the Scions!
Reyna considers Radiants to be superior to humans, similarly to how Magneto considers mutants superior to humans. There's even a timeline out there where Radiants and humans go to war, with Reyna taking a much darker path in that world. Could this discovery in Abyss be what sets Reyna off down that path? That's something to explore in another video, more centered about Reyna. But for now, let's turn our attention back to the map, and in particular, this hourglass hovering above the library. For the moment, we have limited information about it. However, it does seem like the Scions almost worship this thing. There's a room near A lobby which mentions the turn of the hourglass, and another engraving on the wall that reads the hourglass turns. Whether this is some other sort of radianite artifact or perhaps something even more mysterious, we don't really know, but as long as it turns, the Scions will continue to purge data and destroy records in order to keep radianite a secret. Finally, let's go over the A site, or the radiant lockup as they call it. We can see a number of cells, and Deadlock had something to say about the level of security here.
Brimstone, it's Deadlock. This hourglass facility is astonishing. The surface level security is all in place. 3-factor biometric entry, dual encrypted transmission hardware. But you need to see the containment areas deeper in the facility. The materials here make Svalbard look almost amateur. I don't know what they were keeping here, but to warrant this many layers of security? It must have been something special. I'll bring back samples for further analysis.
So she believes they were keeping something important locked up, and then likely moved it in anticipation of the Valorant protocol arriving. There is one more cell, or at least what resembles one, that is kept far away from the rest. Off on the side here, we see this hourglass shaped environment, or it could even resemble an 8. In the cinematic, some stray bullets cracked the glass and a gas began to leak out, awakening whoever or whatever was being contained inside. Upon closer inspection in-game, you can see the cracks are still there, and this humanoid figure can be seen pacing from side to side. The most popular theory is that this is Agent 8. Considering how lore heavy this whole map is and the shape of the room itself, it could be the perfect time to reveal their identity. In case you weren't already familiar with the idea, every agent in Valorant is given a number based on the order they joined the protocol, so Brimstone is number 1 and Clover is the most recent at number 25. Once upon a time there was an Agent 8, however they either left or were removed for whatever reason. Some developers have commented on Agent 8 in the past, saying that they will be revealed as soon as they get back, and we know they are definitely not dead. So with that in mind, there is a very real chance that this is finally our Agent 8, but it also wouldn't be the first time we've gotten our hopes up and ended up being wrong either. There's something else I noticed, potentially in regards to this shadowy character. Back in one of the security rooms near the A site, this silver flower is being researched. Some of the signage indicates that this is a prisoner sample. There's also the number 32, and if we go look at the cell number 32 off the edge of the map, this room for whatever reason doesn't have a door on it. Neither does room 31 for that matter, while all the other cells do have a door. I don't have a theory about what that could mean just yet, but I figured it was worth mentioning. If you remember earlier, I mentioned radivores and said that they were important. They are essentially creatures that are affected or created by radianite and were studied by Kingdom under the name Project Landfall. Sometimes these are more obviously related to animals we recognize, like Thrash being a fish or this bear being, well, a bear, but other times they're a little more obscure, like Dizzy or Mosh. An email from Bind on patch 7.2 indicated that only 6 had ever gotten loose. 5 of these we have seen before. In fact, each piece of Gecko's utility is a radivore, and the 5th was the bear that Deadlock fought in the Unmade cinematic. The 6th, however, is a mystery, save for this announcement on Sunset.
To all Radivore containment staff, subject ZN35 remains unaccounted for in the Dirac wing. This entity can disguise itself as any flora. Please remove all plants from your workspaces until it is recovered.
They note that the 6th radivore has the ability to disguise itself as any flora, and we did see this flower being analyzed specifically with text saying prisoner sample. So it's not just any old flower, and instead it comes from something alive that they're keeping captive. The only thing here that doesn't line up for me is that all the radivores we've seen so far have been brightly coloured, meanwhile this flower is simply bland. Still though, could that 6th radivore have been captured by Hourglass and have something to do with this figure? We've seen that with both Gecko and Deadlock, that radivores can form bonds. But what if that could go a step further and the two could even fuse into one being? This sprite from Schick gives us a better look at the outline of this shadowy figure. And while this is only a teaser and probably won't be identical to what they end up looking like, to me the proportions feel off in a way that makes me think they won't be an agent. That's just my own little theory though, and there is obviously much more to be revealed here, so we'll see what we learn over the coming patches. I had a lot of fun making this video and diving deeper into Valorant's lore, and I haven't really done this sort of video before, so any feedback is greatly appreciated. Otherwise, let me know what you guys think of the lore on Abyss, as well as any theories that you have.